Welcome to MetroSTL. I'm Charles Jaco. We are pleased to be joined today by St. Louis City Comptroller Darlene Green, one of the more powerful political figures in the area. Madam Comptroller, thank you very much for being with us. Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You in the Board of Estimate and Apportionment just finished approving what's going to happen with the first $80 million of that big basket of federal relief money. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff in here that's fascinating. But one thing that struck me, given the surge of COVID in many parts of the state right now, and a particularly virulent version, there's $6.75 million for public health, including people going door to door in a lot of these underserved communities, trying to get people to get vaccines. It's interesting. I looked at the zip code map of the city and found that, for example, in the neighborhood around College Hill, the vaccination rate is as low as it is in some of these incredibly rural, isolated counties. It's like 19, 20%. How valuable do you think, both as a city official and a resident of the city, how valuable do you think an initiative like that is going to be, going door to door, convincing people in a lot of these neighborhoods that COVID means serious business, especially with the African-American population?
Yes, Charles, if you have rightly pointed out, COVID has been devastating to our community, just like it has been across the country. It's just devastating. And when you look at the vaccination rates across our city, we could do better. And I think that the efforts that have been put forth today with, for example, a mobile vaccination clinic and going door to door in particular communities that is known for the low vaccination rates, that's going to help boost the numbers that are vaccinated throughout our communities. And we need that desperately to begin outreach. I did understand that may become a national move where outreach, going door to door, may need to occur in certain communities. And I'm glad that we in the city of St. Louis are going to be on the forefront of that kind of outreach to increase the number of those who are vaccinated. As you know, they talk about variants that are of the virus that have become prevalent in Missouri in particular, as one of the states that we've seen large numbers. So we need to act swiftly in the city of St. Louis, I believe, in order to protect our citizens, and no better way than to go to those who are unable to get to the clinics or maybe have some hesitancy. There's also some money in here for vaccination, to educate about a vaccination and what it means, and to also do a little marketing for those who they're just face it, there are people who have 2 jobs, maybe even 3 jobs, trying to just get by, and they haven't had time to get vaccinated, let alone understand the importance of it for themselves. So this outreach is certainly something that we must do in order to increase those numbers of those who need to be vaccinated.
Now, the single biggest chunk of this 80 million in the first round of federal aid is 58 million for what could be called direct relief to people. This is cash payments. This is aid for the homeless. This is aid for people who are renters. That's a big change, isn't it? Because in a lot of cases, when you would get a big chunk of federal money like this, a lot of city officials would look toward, brick and mortar projects or building something. But this 58 million is almost like a social safety net funded by the feds, but being run by the city with direct payments to individuals.
Well, it's a lot broader than direct payments. But you're correct. There's a huge dollar amount going to the health and human services delivery of service. 35 million of that chunk that you mentioned is going to be I would say considered from the Department of Human Services, the City Department of Human Services, which includes things like rent relief, as you mentioned, utility relief, as you mentioned, mortgage assistance, real and personal property tax assistance. It's also going to go towards safe haven and emergency shelter assistance. And then there are those kinds of human services that are termed wraparound services, bridge services, and rapid rehousing services, along with some of the permanent supportive housing solutions that have been identified. So when you look at the total of the 81 million, you're right that more than half is going to those health and human services where you are meeting the people where they are. In addition to the health and human services, there's the affordable housing that's going to be receiving monies for community outreach for that, some more assistance for the tiny homes, legal assistance where necessary for those who are trying to be rehoused, and some other kinds of public navigation services for those who are in need of some public housing assistance. So these are I would call it kitchen table or issues that families need immediately.
Now, this is, I would call this a change in governing philosophy, wouldn't you? That this much money, instead of going to brick and mortar or police or other things that might have development projects, is being targeted, and in this case is being targeted to the lowest income.
Oh, absolutely.
St. Louisans.
We have the opportunity with a sizable amount of direct relief to reach those who need it the most. And it does go to those who have been hurt, I would say the hardest, those who are right there serving us in their various roles, you know, the restaurant industry, and then I would say the entire hospitality industry has been hurt, in terms of revenue, as well as the workers, the hardest.
Now, another chunk of this 80 million, roughly 11 and a half, goes toward intervention and getting at what the mayor's document calls, quote, the root causes of crime. When one is talking about the root causes of crime, you're talking about everything from neighborhood and family dysfunction to drug addiction to racism to poverty in general to mental illness on people, just a whole raft of things. I mean, when you're talking about the root causes of crime, is this going to be kind of spread around and directed at all of those social service areas, trying to essentially preemptively stop crime before it starts?
I would say so. When you think about people who want to work but don't have transportation, there's some direct relief to help people get that bus pass that they need in order not only to get on the bus to get to work, but those who want to get on the bus or public transportation to find a job. Some people can't call Uber to get a ride, or a family member, and they must depend on transportation that's public. And so there's some relief here for that individual. There's food assistance relief for those that need it. There's also some support for those who need childcare. You know, you're sitting at home, you want to work, but you have to get childcare that's needed in order for you to take that job. So there's a room for that kind of assistance in this first 80 million. There's also other kinds of behavioral health services that's going to be provided here, along with other kinds of community health that's provided here as well. And not to forget our youth. There are youth-led programming that's provided here. And as you know, as you get into the hot summer, you want to do all you can to make sure that there are programming that the city can provide for keeping our youth busy.
Now, in terms of crime, justice, public safety. I mean, and part of the budget that's coming up, not directly linked to this 80 million, is a city budget that cuts, I believe, about $4 million from the police department and reallocates it in favor of early intervention services. Isn't this a heck of a gamble? I mean, you're St. Louis, like every other major city in the country, is experiencing a spike in crime, especially violent crime, especially violent gun crime. And there are many, from Lewis Reed to the Republican state legislators who held a news conference in St. Louis, who are saying that the way to do this is actually pour more money into the police, put more cops on the street, get tougher, because public safety is at stake. I mean, is this a big gamble in times like these to do that to the police budget?
I think we need more money all across the board in all departments to not only adequately deliver city services, but we need more money. And I think the federal government has seen fit to make sure that the city of St. Louis will receive these federal dollars, this 500 million, so that we can do just that, pour more money into our city across the board. So when you think about a small reduction of 4 million in the regular general budget, that's a drop in the bucket to make that money available for those positions. That's 4 million for positions that are unfilled. And that's quite a drop in the bucket when you talk about the overall city budget, the regular budget of 1 billion. 4 million for unfilled jobs should be taken out so that we could reuse that and reposition it for the other needs in the city. So if we were so fortunate that we would have enough applicants to apply for jobs in the city of St. Louis, there is no reason that much of that 4 million could not be put back into that portion, the police portion of the budget. So what you want to do is make use of those dollars that are these hardworking taxpayers are paying. And what we have done for many, many years is allow unfilled positions to be budgeted. And this new administration, it says, no, let us do better. Let us work on the issues at hand to help curb crime. Let's help reduce crime. And to use this $4 million, and as you know, much of it was used for affordable housing and other social service needs that are, as you mentioned before, those are the root causes. So you attack the problem of violent crime, not only with the use of our first responders, our police, but you also look at it attacking it from the other end, and that's prevention. And so taken together, hopefully these steps will give us a better result and a better outcome. And that's what we're looking for. We're all across the board looking for a better outcome and not to continue to do the same things that we've done year after year after year, which has only given us, as you stated, an increase. And hopefully as the years to come, we'll see a decrease in violent crime.
Now, I want to make sure I understood something you just said. You indicated that in the future, sometime, some of that money could conceivably be restored to the police department if you got more people in the city of St. Louis who were coming through the system and willing to be cops. I mean, do you think that's number one? So that means if you got more people, especially more African Americans, signing up, going through the police academy and actually becoming police, you might be open to restoring some of that money if you got more people from the city who are actually becoming police officers rather than people who live outside the city. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, you did understand correctly, but let me be clear and give more clarity, because part of my comment comes from what I've heard nationally. Nationally, I've heard that they are looking at providing income, not income, but dollars for more police across the country. And I believe that of the 15 cities that would be on the first round of this kind of be a recipient of this money would be the city of St. Louis. So we may be one of those cities that will receive federal monies that will be for providing more police. And of course, we should be in the number. And like I said, we are on that list. And that's where I'm getting this information from, because then we can restore those dollars. So that's an important clarification, because that is what, we need to look at what's going on nationally. You've got this 500 million in direct relief, and now there's more talk about more money coming to this, another 15 cities, which, like I said, St. Louis isn't a part of it. And those dollars were directed towards more police in part.
I understand. What interests me, though, is the idea that you would like to see more people, especially people of color, on the police force who live in the city, because right now, of course, there is no residency requirement thanks to the state of Missouri. And look, I am neither Black nor a resident of the city. You are both. So you tell me, would it, in your mind, increase the efficiency, the effectiveness, the crime fighting ability, and the community liaison ability of the City of St. Louis Police Department if you had more cops who are, especially Black cops, who lived in the city, rather than hiring cops mostly white from outside the city in St. Louis County, Jefferson County, wherever they might live?
Well, I never buy into that polarization talk. What I do buy into is highly qualified professionals who want to be police, whether they're Black or white. And I would love to see that they would be community oriented as well, and want to live and work in the city that they serve. First responders are very important, not only to our city, but across the nation. They include the firefighters, they include EMS, and police are important. And I know that there are those who take their work seriously and work hard, Black or white. And this controversy in terms of reform of the police or defund the police, that's controversial, that's trendy. But what is always there is that a first responder that wants to serve, and as their terminology is protect and serve. That's what we want. We want that professional that wants to protect and serve our community. And from my mind, I want them also to want to live in our communities as they protect and serve the communities that they are working in. I want you to live here. We'll go out of our way in the administration to help do what we can to make that happen. So that's where I stand. We want, if there's a program that we can create that would help a police officer, any first responder to want to live where they work, that would just be something that I would listen to.
Okay. And in a broader sense, the idea of using early intervention, whether one calls them social workers or, non-police first responders, in a lot of these calls that the police get, in other words, directing resources there, you think will be more effective crime fighting than the current model we followed, which is more money and more uniformed armed officers. That first option, which you guys are going to try, is going to be more effective in cutting the crime rate?
Well, as we all know, across the country, there's police reform. It's going to be coming in all different levels and phases, and it's going to be phased in all different levels, depending on the community, depending on the type of leadership. So the reform is here. The police departments are gearing themselves up for retraining and the addition of those social workers and other human service and social service professionals to join in on helping to reduce this crime that we are faced with in so many communities. It needs to be viewed as a positive step in the right direction, and it's yet to be seen how effective this is going to become.
On the overall city budget, how big of a hole in it was kicked by COVID? Was St. Louis's financial balance of payments badly damaged in the year and change of COVID in terms of tax collections and deficits and things like that? How bad was it?
We had a huge hole in certain of our estimated revenues, sales tax, all the gamut of taxes. In particular, when you look at the sales tax, for example, you look at how the makeup of it, the largest drop was our restaurant and hotel sales tax at some 80%, was above 80% in terms of that drop. So there was a huge drop. That's the hospitality industry. And we were like, all of the cities affected very greatly by that reduction. The reduction in travel. Our airport, in terms of those revenues, were coming in at a huge deficit. And so, yes, across the board, we have seen quite a bit of revenue drops regarding our tax normal revenues.
And in addition to providing additional services, does this influx of federal money that's going to be coming in several ways, is that going to help you patch any of the holes that are leaking? I know that it says, the federal law says one of the things you can't use it for is funding pension obligations, which in St. Louis, like every other city, is probably the biggest single chunk people have to worry about. But in other areas, is this federal money going to be able to patch enough holes so the city of St. Louis's financial standing is not going to be damaged long-term by what happened during COVID?
It is our hope that this $500 million will go a long way to help us use it, not only for direct relief to our citizens, but also to plug some of the holes that are huge gaps that were made by the reduction in our taxes, like I mentioned earlier, in the hotel and restaurant sales tax. So we hope that this will provide the dollars that we need to plug some of those gaps. Yes, absolutely.
A final question for you, Madam Comptroller. You have a new administration now in that has several new members of the Board of Aldermen that have a socially conscious drive and a socially conscious agenda. In the past, a lot of the power brokers in the city of St. Louis were more concerned with big ticket development items. Let's build a new stadium here or something there. In other words, build something, use it for eco-devo, economic development, in all capital letters, looking at big ticket items. This administration seems to be more focused on not only social justice issues, but funneling a lot of that money down, as we discussed earlier, to the lower income parts of the city. Rather than toward developers or big ticket projects. Fiscally and in terms of the overall future of the city, how much of a difference do you think this is going to make?
I really think that when you're looking at a budget, you have to look at your citizenry that you're serving. And we don't just serve businesses, we don't just serve stadiums. The majority that we serve or the average families. The hardworking families are who we serve. The hardworking families that choose to live in the city of St. Louis, they pay the taxes. And they should and do deserve to expect that their tax dollars that they pay into the city of St. Louis is going to give them a bit more than just adequate delivery, but they deserve better delivery of city services. And so I think that this administration is recognizing that they're going to do a bit better towards the average working family who expects that their trash is going to be picked up on a regular basis and that their potholes are going to be filled and that the empty lots are going to be mowed, and that they're going to feel like that the city that they've chosen, because they could live anywhere in this huge metropolitan area, but they've chosen to live in the city, and they are going to see some changes, I believe, that is very respectful of the tax dollars that they pay into the city.
City of St. Louis Comptroller Darlene Green. Madam Comptroller, a pleasure as always. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you too. Take care.